Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, I don't care. My name is Bauer, and this is my impression of a paratrooper from Band of Brothers. All jokes aside, this is my impression of a rifleman in Dog Company, 2nd Battalion, 502nd, 101st Airborne Division, D-Day+7, during the Normandy campaign in 1944. Beginning with undergarments, I am wearing an WWII tank top and GI shorts. As you can see, I am not wearing a white t-shirt, as they were not standard issue, and were not very common. Now, yes, they were seen, but they were more than likely private purchased. I like to represent the majority. Moving on to the basic uniform, I am sporting my M1937 Wools, which consists of the shirt and trousers. Although many reenactors, including myself, like to complain about how uncomfortable these uniforms are, they are a necessity. Europe was cold. Paratroopers were issued these wool uniforms to keep them warm. While they aren't the most comfortable article of clothing, we are representing these men, what they did, and what they wore. For my footwear, I am sporting a set of at the front jump boots. These have the correct black sole as opposed to the modern-day Corcoran red sole for some reason. I personally have very sensitive feet, so I wear original cushion-soled socks. Besides that, I also have my M41 field jacket, which was documented as being worn underneath M42 uniforms by paratroopers. Moving on to my jump uniform, these are my reinforced World War II Impressions M42 jump trousers with 101st leg ties that I had to add myself. Around my waist, I have an at-the-front web belt with an original buckle and a set of What Price Glory trouser suspenders. There is a lot of documentation of paratroopers wearing both of these at the same time to support the weight that they were carrying. Onto my M42 jacket, it is also a World War II Impressions Old Run jacket, which has been CC2'd, which is a very important part of any airborne impression, as paratroopers were told to turn in a set during basic training to be CC2'd. CC2 is a chemical compound that was used to essentially gas-proof these uniforms. The Army feared that the Germans would resort to using gas, just like they did in World War I. However, this was not the case, and many paratroopers boiled their uniforms to get the CC2 treatment out, as it was uncomfortable. However, you would still see residue, and it would still leave a waxy, dark, wet-looking substance on these uniforms. Around my neck, I have a set of early war brass ID tags with a sister hook chain, and wrapped around that is a single strip of engineer tape as a pseudo-silencer. While I don't typically wear it for illustrative purposes, I have my stand-in-the-door 1944 gas brassard. Originals were simple paper coated with chemicals that would turn red whenever gas was present. However, again, these were made out of paper and would wither away after seconds of hitting the ground after you're jumping out of a plane. On my left arm, I have my 101st Airborne patch, also made by Stand in the Door 1944. This is, I believe, their Type 3, and at a $7 price tag, it is more than worth it. Also, on my left arm is the only good you'll ever get out of a white t-shirt in World War II reenacting, and that is my 2nd Battalion identification marker. I cannot stress enough how important it is to actually fill your pockets when reenacting. You have to remember these men lived in these uniforms and would want their valuables easily accessible at all times. For example, in my right pocket, I carry a reproduction box of Lucky Strike cigarettes, a 1941 Black Crackle Zippo, and an original pipe. In my left pocket, I carry a spoon, 2 D ration bars, and my wallet. For my headgear, I have an original front seam fixed bail M1 steel pod helmet. This features a 1-inch net from Stand in the Door 1944, and also their scrim. When purchasing scrim or making your own, I'd suggest keeping it to darker colors, more natural colors. You have to remember that you're trying to blend in with brush. I strongly suggest avoiding very orange pieces or very bottle green colored pieces of scrim. For my liner, I am ashamed to say that I have an at the front paratrooper liner, as opposed to a Che Marais, as they were sadly out of stock at the time. This features the A yokes as well as the leather chin cuff. Besides that, I have my M3 fighting knife in the M6 leather scabbard, supported by a white cot strap from Stand in the Door 1944. Avoid any fantasy pieces from at the front. They don't exist. Bootlaces or legging laces are great alternatives if you don't want a cot strap for whatever reason. Moving on to webbing, I have an original M1936 pistol belt with brass hardware. Attached to that, I have 3 Stand in the Door 1944 rigger pouches, which can fit up to 3 M1 Garand M-Block clips, 2 carbine magazines, and a box of 30 carbine ammo, or even 2 grenades. Speaking of which, I have a Stand in the Door 1944 grenade with black engineer tape wrapped around the spoon to secure it. Also on my belt is an original M1 Garand bayonet. Next to that, I have my original M43 shovel and shovel carrier, featuring the sewn backing as opposed to the adjustable wire hanger. Next to that is a stand-in-the-door 1944 Ultimate Parachute First Aid Pouch, as well as an original 1924 First Aid Pouch with original Carlisle tin that I busted open, threw away the disgusting 80-year-old bandage, and replaced with my blanket after. Next to that is my M1910 canteen cover, which houses my What Price Glory canteen and original canteen cup. To help distribute the weight, I have an original set of M1936 suspenders taped up with black engineer tape, which also hold together my felt pads. These are a What Price Glory reproduction, and as much as they suck, they are necessary. You are carrying a lot of weight. This would help distribute that weight. Occasionally, I'll also wear one or two bandoliers, just in case I need the extra ammo. Depending on whether or not I'm portraying a machine gunner or machine gunner assistant, I'll also carry a original transitional GP bag. Above that is my at the front M7 rubberized gas mask bag, which is never full of anything but rations. Rounding off my field gear, I have my original M36 musette bag, which also features my original raincoat. Do not use ponchos, blankets, or shelter hats. While yes, the paratroopers already carried a lot of heavy gear, they wanted to be as light as possible. I personally carry K-rations, socks, and my hygiene kit. As stated before, I portray a rifleman, therefore I carry the M1 service rifle with the correct milled trigger guard, Type 2 lock bar, rounded op rod, and single slot gas plug. All in all, I spent way too much money on this damn impression, but at the end of the day, I take solace in the fact that I get to represent the greatest generation. Thank you for watching.